Magbabayo, figure 8 strike. When executing magbabayo, make sure you execute diagonal strikes that cut from the shoulder to the hip and converge through a common point or center. These barrage of strikes focused on a single target is designed to disarm or disable the opponent. This drill is performed with training swords rather than sticks to emphasize the importance of executing the technique with accurate and precise use of the weapon's blade. Magbabayo is not a backhand strike and should never be practiced as such.
Sanay Lubid. These rope striking drills develop power, precision, and coordination.
Tambal Sanay drills develop timing, awareness, and the ability to adapt or adjust to the opponent's speed and timing.
Salok Savoy. Reverse figure 8 strikes. These are paired upward diagonal strikes that cut from the hip to the opposite shoulder.
Salok Savoy is an effective counter against any high, vertical, or diagonal downward strike. Salok Savoy is executed with a graceful looping and powerful wrist and arm motion.
Similar to Magbabayo, the technique of Salok Savoy focuses on a single point to deliver the converging upward diagonal strikes.
Take careful note of the sharpness, the flicking, wrist and arm motion that generates the power of Salok Savoy technique. Redonda, whirlwind strikes. One of the most popular of the Sinawali techniques, Redonda is a combination of 3 diagonal downward strikes focused on a single target. The initial chambering motion of Redonda is a subtle parrying or protective motion that also prepares the launching of the second of the 3 strikes. The second strike is also used as a secondary switch and check to prepare for the final strike of the series. The movements of Redonda hide a series of complex and deadly unarmed techniques which will be covered in later sessions. Never begin the practice of Redonda from a chambered position. Always practice and fight from Laban Handa or combat ready position. Step forward with the initial strike of Redonda to generate power. Sanay Lubid drills condition your hands and arms to the impact and demands of weapons-oriented combat. Rapido Redonda. Redonda with initial parry and strike combination. This variation or combination of Redonda with Rapido is used to disrupt and break the rhythm of combat as well as the opponent's focus. Rapido Redonda is a battle-tested and proven combination technique. Langit at lupa, heaven and earth. Sometimes referred to as Sinawali, Langit at Lupa is one of the most popular of the techniques of Sinawali. Using a combination of high and low strikes, Langit at Lupa delivers a dazzling and multi-level array of strikes. Hidden within the folds of these multi-level strikes is the signature Ipo-Ipo throwing technique of Hagibis and Silat arts. Langit at Lupa also incorporates the subtle and deadly Dos Labahas technique in the last of the strikes. Dos Labahas is a combination of Bunot Kaluban and Bagsak techniques and can be seen as the final downward strike is delivered. Take note that as the final downward strike is delivered, an upward rowing and cutting motion can be executed from the low strike position. This technique, known as Bunot Kaluban or drawing of the sword, is an inside upward diagonal strike. Redonda Salok Saboy, reverse whirlwind. Redonda Salok Saboy delivers a series of upward diagonal strikes. This technique is usually delivered as a counter to downward strikes, most popularly against Redonda. The initial chambering motion is in reality a subtle parry or blocking technique executed in combination with the first upward counter strike. Redonda Salok Saboy shares similarities with Redonda and Langit at Lupa in its incorporation of Hagibis and Silat techniques. In its empty hand form, the parrying hand works with a simultaneous uppercut or upward blow to the ribs or solar plexus. In succeeding tapes, we will begin exploring the combat and empty hand applications of the Sinawali techniques. Okay. Bulalakaw, the comet. Bulalakaw is a three-step technique performed in a two-beat motion. Bulalakaw can be used as a parry, switch, and strike technique, or as a feint, trap, and strike technique. Bulalakaw concentrates on the high and middle targets. A versatile technique, Bulalakaw is effective against both diagonal and vertical strikes as well as middle to high thrust. The footwork used in Bulalakaw is commonly known as Combate General. Unang balangkas. Balangkas 1. Foundation drill number 1. This is the first foundation form for solo baston or single stick. Balangkas 1 is composed of 5 techniques, performed from both inside and outside positions. These positions are also known as open and closed positions or abierta and cerrada positions. Balangkas 1 is composed of 24 movements. Balangkas 1 will be broken down by application and drills in succeeding tapes. Pangalawang balangkas, Balangkas 2, Foundation drill number 2. This is the second of a series of short forms for solo baston or single stick. Balangkas 2 is composed of 5 techniques and a total of 28 movements. Balangkas 2 will be broken down into its individual techniques and drills in succeeding tapes.
Step.
Basic rope drills. Sombrada, bagsak, planchada. This drill is a combination of 3 techniques. You have a roof block, a diagonal downward strike, and a middle horizontal strike. This drill develops footwork, reflex, and striking power. When performing this drill, visualize a triangle to plot each of the movements when performing the techniques. The horizontal strike forms the base of the triangle, while the sides represent the lines traced by the parry and strike. Bulalakaw, bagsak, the comet with drop strike. The bulalakaw for the single stick is performed as a 2-part technique. The initial strike or parry is executed at high or head level, and the second strike is at mid-level. The bagsak is a diagonal downward strike executed at the same level as the initial strike of the bulalakaw technique. Take note that the bulalakaw technique follows the shape of the letter C, as in comet. Sombrada, bagsak, bulalakaw. Roof block and strike with the comet. A 5-step drill, the combination of these techniques exemplifies initial defense and counter, followed by a series of offensive strikes. Always visualize the opponent's initial strike as you execute the defensive sombrada technique. Sombrada, bagsak, bubuyog. This technique is a combination of sombrada bagsak and the technique of bubuyog. Bubuyog, or bumblebee, is a 3/4 reverse figure 8 strike with a de cuerdas, or reversal, at the end. Always visualize the opponent's initial strike as you execute the defensive sombrada technique.
Ang batikan is an intermediate Sinawali form and is composed of 5 major groups of techniques. The breakdown of this form follows after this demonstration. Bulalakaw, Luha, Redonda. The first group of techniques in Ang Batikan uses Bulalakaw and Luha Redonda. This is performed to a total of 7 counts. Bulalakaw is performed here in 2 counts. The parry or feint is executed as 1 count, while the switch and strike blend into a single count. Take careful note of the dodging that results in a position perpendicular to the opponent. Luha Redonda is a variation on the popular Redonda technique. Note the simultaneous sidestep, parry and thrust executed to the outside of the attack. The second movement of Luha Redonda is a trapping or checking motion followed by another thrust. Luha Redonda then goes into a secondary strike or check and ends with a final inside strike or bagsak. Bulalakaw, Luha Redonda. Bukang Liwayway, Redonda, Salok Saboy. The second group of techniques combines Bukang Liwayway with Redonda Salok Saboy for a total of 5 counts.
Bukang Liwayway is executed with an outside diagonal sidestep while executing a reverse inside parry or chamber and delivering an overhead counter strike. This movement is immediately reversed and a low strike is performed while retracting the other hand in a ready position. Redonda Salok Saboy, as previously covered, starts with a simultaneous inside parry and an upward or uppercut strike. In this instance, the Redonda Salok Saboy is performed in the aggressive or stepping in mode.
Bukang Liwayway, Redonda, Salok Saboy.
Lagusan Sinalakot, Redonda, Salok Saboy. The third group is comprised of Lagusan Sinalakot, followed again by Redonda Salok Saboy for a total of 5 counts.
Lagusan means tunnel and describes the way the attack is guided past the body and under the armpit. With the use of diagonal forward sidestep, the opponent's thrust goes towards the empty space created under your counter thrust. Sinalakot is the vertex or conical protective movement made by the weapon around one's head. It is also known in other circles as Boca de Lobo, Boca de Lobo, and many other names. The third set culminates with the Redonda Salok Saboy.
Lagusan Sinalakot, Redonda, Salok Saboy.
Pluma, Bagsak, Redonda, Salok Saboy.
The fourth group of techniques in Ang Batikan consists of Pluma, Bagsak, and Redonda, Salok Saboy. Pluma in Sinawali or double stick is executed first with a forward diagonal sidestep and an intercepting inside parry. This parry guides or deflects the opponent's weapon to the outside, aided by the pluma or wing block. The parry continues to keep check of the opponent's weapon while the pluma converts into the bagsak counter strike.
From the bagsak, the technique then flows into the Bukang Liwayway and Redonda Salok Saboy movement previously demonstrated. Pluma, Bagsak, Redonda, Salok Saboy. Luha, Salungan, Nakaw, Abanico. The last major group of techniques is Luha, Nakaw, Abanico with Mandirigma. The first step is a forward diagonal sidestep with a parry and counter thrust. Immediately after the thrust, the parrying hand executes an upward side-to-side slash followed by an inside parry. The slashing weapon then converts into a looping inside strike or abanico. The final step retracts the abanico into a sombrada or roof block with a simultaneous low strike or block. This is known as ang mandirigma.
The north and south face of Ang Batikan combines the first three major groups for a total of 17 counts. The east and west face combines the last two major groups for a total of 14 counts. The slash, parry, and inside strike, or palis-palis abanico, is repeated to position for the next series. Again, note the use of the palis-palis abanico, which is the closing technique for Ang Batikan. In the shift or turn from east to west of Ang Batikan, a kambal bagsak or twin drop strike is executed as a transition technique.